it going, guys? Aaron from PhoneDog.com here, and if you're on Verizon, yeah, you got a lot of 4G LTE choices to choose from, but a lot of them are kind of pricey. You know, $299.99, $300, that's a lot to spend on a phone. Well, if you're looking for one that's just a little bit cheaper, maybe say $199.99, they've still got some options for you, and I've got two of those in my hands right now. One of those is the Motorola DROID 4, and this is the latest iteration of the DROID lineup, the original lineup at that. And it's got a 1.2 gigahertz dual-core processor, an 8-megapixel camera, and it's got that awesome physical QWERTY keyboard as well. Then you have the LG Spectrum over here. This thing has a true HD display, a 1.5 gigahertz dual-core processor, and an 8-megapixel camera as well. They're both $199.99 at Verizon corporate stores and online at VerizonWireless.com. Which one's the best? We're going to find out in a head-to-head battle we like to call a dogfight. But first, some love to Best Buy Mobile because they hook us up with phones just like this for use in our giveaway games. When you go into Best Buy Mobile, you'll walk out working. They'll help you set up your email, your contacts, your web. When you walk out that door, all your settings will be set up thanks to Best Buy Mobile. Let's take a look at these. DROID 4, Spectrum. So to continue on in part 2, you know what I was telling you in part 1, most people don't want to spend $300 on a cell phone. I mean, they do it, but some people just either don't want to or just don't have $300 to spend on a cell phone. And that's perfectly acceptable. If you want to spend a little bit less, let's say $199.99, here are two awesome LTE choices for you on Verizon, the DROID 4 and then the LG Spectrum over here. So to pick up where we left off, let's go ahead and jump into some speed tests really quick and kind of mix it around. I want to show you Quadrant Standard. Quadrant Standard has been updated for a dual-core processor, so it's nice, it's up to date now, and we can use it and have a kind of a comparison between the two devices here. So we'll run Quadrant Standard and talk a little bit about the performance of both devices. Now, when it comes to voice quality, the Motorola DROID 4 takes the cake. I mean, voice quality is fantastic. The earpiece is nice and loud. Took it to a Verizon dead spot in Northeast Charlotte near the University of North Carolina at Charlotte, and it's very impressive. You know, I mean, it does get choppy, and I had a hard time holding the call, and it was cutting in and out, but it did maintain the call. Now, the Spectrum did that as well. I noticed it cut in and out a little bit more, and the signal strength generally wasn't as good as the DROID 4, you know, and not just in terms of signal strength in terms of the bars, but in terms of dBm as well, which is a signal strength indicator that a lot of reviewers use, and of course you can access that in the internal settings in your respective Android device. But I will say, impressive earpiece, did a great job here, and then you have the Spectrum over here. It's still decent, not the best in the world in both connectivity when it comes to data and in terms of wireless as well. Now you're seeing a full 5 bars here. I'm actually in my office right now, and there's a Verizon cell site on the hotel right across from my office. So, you know, it's a little bit cheating right now, but if you take it to a Verizon dead spot with both of these, I think you'll find that they're both relatively impressive. Battery life, on the other hand, pretty decent on the DROID 4. You know, with moderate use, you're not going to make it through a day with heavy use on either one of these devices, but with moderate use, texting, emailing, calling, the DROID 4 did make it almost through a full day. I made it to about 9 p.m. after taking it off the charger at about 8:30 with moderate use. So not terribly bad. You know, again, heavy use, and keep in mind the battery is non-removable, so you can't just pop out a battery and put in a new one. You are kind of stuck if you don't, you know, if you run out of battery juice and you can't, you know, spend 15 or 20 minutes giving it a quick charge. Now the Spectrum, on the other hand, a couple of problems here. One, this thing takes forever to charge. So if you're like me and you live, you know, 20, 30-minute charges here and there between meetings, between conference calls, you're walking out of the office, whatever, you're going to have a hard time making it on the Spectrum. This thing takes forever to charge. I mean, I charged this thing for 2.5 hours earlier, and it's still not fully charged. You know, it doesn't go from 0 to 100. That said, moderate use, you know, beautiful display over here. The display is a winner on this device. As far as I'm concerned, it was the best display on Verizon on any of their lineup right now. It outdoes the Galaxy Nexus to me. But you can really see the color difference here. Take a look. And actually, let me bring these in a little closer to the camera so you can take a look. And hopefully you can see some of the color differences here between PenTile and non-HD as opposed to IPS HD over here. 2,480 on the DROID 4, 2,198 on the LG Spectrum. But again, hard to charge in terms of, you know, 15, 20-minute charges, so I mean, you're going to have to charge this thing overnight, and the battery does die relatively quickly. It's an HD display, and it's a big one at that, so even with a 1,830 milliamp hour battery, it's still not the most impressive battery life in the shed. I took it off the charger at 8:30, and by about 6 o'clock-ish, with moderate use, based on my testing, it was ready to power down. So let's get these on the same server and do a speed test. Both of these devices are running Verizon's 4G LTE. You want to load these up on the same, so we've got a nice comparison here. And I was planning to, but we'll see why this one's not picking up any of the Carolina servers. Let's get this started up and ready to go. Do I have the GPS settings turned on? Alabama, that's not anywhere closer. Let's take a look here. Make sure I have the settings turned on. You're going to watch this live on camera. I'm not going to cut this. Let's see. Location security, let's make sure that's why. There we go, Google location. Let's get these suckers turned on. Location services. And let's go back to speed test and see if we can get a more accurate number over here, or an accurate server over here. Let's go back and let this locate us. And let's see what we can find here. I'm going to let it take its sweet time. Chester over here, and we'll wait for this one to load. Come on, Chester, Chester, Chester. We'll give it a second to load. Okay, we're loaded up on both of these on Chester, South Carolina, so we'll begin the test and take a look. Now, what I was saying in part 1 and kind of in part 2 as well about a little bit of lag I'm seeing on the LG Spectrum, I see it in a couple of different places, not just when scrolling through various things, like scrolling through home screens or applications. I also see it when I'm scrolling and I'll stop, and I'll go to click something. Well, it doesn't always recognize the gesture unless the menu's fully stopped. So if you're like me and you're scrolling and you're like, oh yeah, click, and you do it in the middle, most phones will pick up on that and automatically click on it. Well, with the Spectrum, you have to have a full stop before it'll click on it appropriately. So that's something to keep in mind. I see a lot of lag when going between home screens or like occasional slowdowns or stutters. So it's a beautiful display, and it's really going to be a trade-off as to what's more important to you. If you want a more consistent fluid performance, it's going to be the Droid 4. If you want that beautiful IPS HD display, you really want, a bigger display, 4.5 inches as opposed to 4, then I'd say go with the Spectrum because they're, again, they're both at the same price point. So it's loading up now, 7 megabits per second. Now, Verizon's LTE network is increasingly becoming saturated. They're quoting download speeds between 5 and 12 megabits per second and upload speeds between 2 and 5 megabits per second. On LTE. So again, that's pretty much what we're seeing here. Upload's a little bit slow over here in the Droid 4, but you're seeing 7 megabits per second, 7.7 over here, 1.41 megabits per second on the upload, 2.64 megabits per second. So at least in that 4G test, the Spectrum takes the cake. I want to show you the Play Store as well. Now, Android market, actually it changed over while I was switching from part 1 to part 2. So you're going to notice the difference here, and they're rolling it out pretty aggressively because they just announced this today actually. But we'll show you the Android market, now known as the Play Store. So Google Play is what they're calling it now, and I don't really know again how you play books, but you can play movies, play music, and play apps apparently. And you can see they're really taking this play theme to a new level. 7 days to play. You got Hunger Games, play the Hunger Games, play this, 25 cents play of the day. Now playing, so you can see it, their marketing teams are really taking advantage of this play word. No real differences to the layout. I mean, if you've seen Google Market, or Google Play in the past couple of months, no real changes. Apps, music, books, and movies all in one place. So I can go to music, but you can see the icons changed. And again, portrait to landscape transitions on both of these devices, relatively responsive. And we'll take a look on that note at the web browsing as well, but I wanted to show you what it looks like on both of these. But again, you're really seeing, 4.5-inch display, more screen real estate over here as opposed to on the Droid 4. 4-inch display, nice sweet spot for a lot of people, but still, if you're somebody that's going to do media content, you're watching YouTube videos, you're browsing the web a lot, the Spectrum's going to be the better suited device for you. So we'll load up PhoneDog.com on both of these. PhoneDog. I'm going to go ahead and click there. And let's go over here, because I'm terrible at typing on swipe. You know this. If you watch my videos for any period of time, you know how bad I am on swipe. So PhoneDog.com is loading up over here on both of these. And again, take a look side by side, and you can kind of see the difference in terms of the display size. I don't mean to harp on that too much. Again, you do get a physical QWERTY keyboard over here, and then a 4.5-inch display over here. So you do get more screen real estate. That said, physical QWERTY for text messaging. Pinch to zoom, relatively responsive here. You're seeing a little bit of lag here as well. And then you can see, of course, over here, relatively responsive with little to no lag. Now, one difference, we'll go in here and take a look at the Windows, for example, and you can see it shows that I have PhoneDog open, and that's it right now. Windows over here gives me a nice preview of where I left off. So very similar to TouchWiz 4.0, very similar to HTC Sense, the past several versions of Sense. And I can add a new window by going up here and just going to something else, Google, for example. And I'll go back, and you can see 2 windows open. I can scroll right back to PhoneDog. So, again, gestures just seem to be a little bit off on that user interface. But over here, you just get text, and I can go back, but still pinch to zoom, responsive, and then, of course, my transitions are nice and effective as well. 4G LTE is really beneficial to have because it is nice and fast, and, of course, you can usually fall back on 3G if you're in an area where you don't have LTE connectivity, although I will say Verizon's doing a pretty decent job of rolling out their connectivity to the masses. So you've got that, and then, of course, you have your apps as well. And I want to go ahead and take a look at one more. I'll show you the camera. 8-megapixel camera on both of these devices with 1080p HD video recording. And again, it's not really going to do it justice over here because IPS HD display, non-HD display. So you're going to see a difference on screen as opposed to when you actually take these to the printer. But let's bring over, let's see what we can do here. I'll bring over, how about some sunglasses? We'll bring over some sunglasses this time and take a look at that. And we'll load up here. And you can see the editing options over here, the ability to change to a front-facing camera. You can, of course, zoom in. You got your color changes here. You got flash. You got your settings. I can change image size, scene mode. So I've got a lot of different options I can do over here. And I do, I will say I do like LG's camera interface. You can switch easily between recording, and then, of course, you can take a picture. So no physical camera button. So when you do want to focus in on something like the Ray-Ban logo there, for example, you're going to press and hold, and it's going to focus in. Let's focus out of that a little bit so you can see there's that. Picture taken. And then over on the Droid 4, you can see same editing options. You got a little menu or a little tab here to pull out all your different stuff. You got settings, ability to change colors, turn flash on and off, change the white balance, and more. And of course, I can up or lower the video resolution and the individual picture resolution as well. So we're going to go into Ray-Ban, focus in on that, and take a look at both of these. So here are our pictures. Go into gallery on both, and I can easily zoom in. So again, pinch to zoom, pretty responsive here. Maybe just a little bit of lag ever so slightly, but pretty easy to focus in on. It's a decent looking picture, but again, they look about the same. No real difference so far as I can tell to these two. And then the pinch to zoom seems a little bit more choppy over here. Now it's kind of averaging out, but still choppier than the LG Spectrum. So it just goes to show you it depends on which side that you're using. For example, with camera, pinch to zoom is more responsive on the Spectrum. With browser, it was more responsive on the Droid 4. So you've got your zoom there as well. So Google Play, that's a big change for them. But all in all, these are two pretty decent Android devices. And let's say the notifications bar before we go too, because I want to show you these. I always like these little shortcuts up in the top, and this is just something I forgot in part 1, but you can see the little shortcuts here for sound, for landscape or portrait orientation, Bluetooth, GPS, airplane mode, and then Wi-Fi. And then over here, you just get your notifications bar. Nothing really major over there. But it's a tough call because it really depends. Like most of these devices, they're all becoming pretty similar in terms of specifications, and it really depends on what you want. Visual voicemail is available on both of these for $2.99 per month from Verizon, but it really depends on what you want. If you're looking for something with a killer display, and that's really what's most important to you, take a look at the Spectrum. The IPS display, absolutely fantastic, HD quality, 720p, and it's 4.5 inches. So for YouTube, for music videos, for web browsing, it's a phenomenal option. Over here, you've got a great physical QWERTY keyboard, so if you're somebody that texts messages on a regular basis, does a lot of emails, really needs that physical QWERTY keyboard, doesn't feel comfortable migrating up from a BlackBerry to this, take a look at the Droid 4. It's a great iteration to the original Droid line. Now, of course, it's a dogfight, so one has to win. And the winner by a pretty close margin, actually, is the Droid 4. And I'm giving it to the Droid 4 for a couple of reasons. One, this is still a phone after all, and call quality is noticeably better on the Droid 4 than it is on the LG Spectrum. Based on reviews with both of these devices, call quality is better, the wireless radio is fantastic, battery life, a little bit better on the Droid 4, but really the real winner here is that it charges pretty easily in 20 or 30 minutes, so you can live off quick charges, whereas this thing is pretty slow to charge. Camera's pretty decent on this bad boy as well. It's got a nice form factor, and the physical QWERTY keyboard is a great choice. But again, if you're looking for something that's a little bit thinner, a little bit lighter, and the big display matters to you, and you're all about some HD resolution, the Spectrum's going to be the one for you. Much more coverage to come on PhoneDog.com with the Droid 4 and the LG Spectrum, so keep it locked on the site for continuing coverage. Be sure to follow us on Facebook, Facebook.com/PhoneDog. Head over there, like us, and be sure to follow me on Twitter as well, PhoneDog_Aaron, PhoneDog_CEO for the CEO of PhoneDog, and of course, PhoneDog in general at Twitter.com/PhoneDog. Thanks so much for watching. Keep it locked for more dogfights on PhoneDog.com, and as always, we'll see you next time.